Mark Rogers TV back with you talking Alabama football. The Tide's been in fall camp for about a week, so of course we go to one of our Mount Rushmore contributors here on Mark Rogers TV, Ben George of Tide 99.1. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Mount Rushmore, huh? I like that. You know, we used to do a Mount Punchmore of sports, so I'm glad you didn't put me on that one.
We're going to leave you off the Punchmore list and Mount Rushmore, the serious stuff, historic value right there. All right, Ben, we've got the Tide in camp. I know not a whole lot's going on to sink your teeth into, but we need something from you. We've got a quarterback situation with Coker and Sims. Your take on that from what little you can gather at this point.
Yeah, and, you know, like I told you, the media, for people that aren't familiar with Alabama practices, they're open to the media, but only at the beginning of practice for 10 or 15 minutes. So it's limited. You know, the coaches control what we see, what we don't see. But from what we've seen early on, Coker definitely looks the part. He's a big kid, good size, good arm strength, but he's been a little off on his timing, a little inaccurate at times. You know, we're 6 days into camp, so you know there's nothing to be too alarmed with at this point. But you'd like to see him start settling in there. But you've got Blake Sims getting just as many reps, along with Cooper Bateman. Blake looks a little better. He does look like he's improved some from the spring, but I still think that you want to see Coker in that starting role if you're an Alabama fan.
We've talked the running back situation specifically in the spring. You were excited about that competition, I believe, more than any on the field in regards to positional units. Drake and Henry backing up T.J. Yeldon at this point. I know, again, it's early, but do you have anything to go on at this point?
No, and we probably won't, honestly, until the season starts. But, you know, just looking at it, Henry's a huge kid. Still got great size. I think he's gotten probably stronger since last year. Yeldon still looks good. I think we're talking about kind of how the carries will break down. I think you'll have Yeldon and Henry get pretty similar. Yeldon probably a little bit more. I mean, he's had 2,000-yard seasons his first 2 years at Alabama, so he's kind of earned that spot. And then Drake kind of picks up maybe 15 to 20% of the carries possibly. But look, you know, watching some drills today of the running backs specifically, which you know we have on our website, Drake just has a different gear and a different speed than anybody else in that backfield. His feet are just so quick. He's shiftier, gets in and out of cuts quicker. He's all around more electric. But Alabama fans know that. Look, nobody's going to debate that. They want him in the lineup. It's a matter of, is his head on straight? Is he doing things right off the field? He had some more problems this summer, but if he can keep things in order, he can be a huge playmaker, and they need him to. I mean, honestly, they need his threat out of the backfield because he can break one at any point.
I would think that you could spare one or two of those guys for an Ole Miss or Mississippi State or Texas A&M at this point, but I know that they've got some talent in the backfield, but not enough to challenge those three. Anyway, let's move on to the defensive line position, just because there is some news there, both on the injury front and the unfortunate suspension front.
Yeah, we'll start with injury front. A'Shawn Robinson, Alabama's talented sophomore, who's one of the better defensive linemen in the country. He led the team in sacks last year, 5.5. They had some concerns. He missed practice yesterday, the first of 2 days. He just wasn't there. They keep injuries pretty quiet. Coach Saban only talks, I think, 3 times a week to the media. So hadn't heard anything. He wasn't out of practice. Couldn't find out it was a sprained knee. They had concerns, I believe, depending on who you talk to, that it could have been an ACL, but it wasn't. Thankfully, he'll miss probably a week or so. He's listed officially as day-to-day. They're going to need him back, though. He's a difference maker on the defensive front, and he's going to need to be because, as you mentioned, the suspensions of Brandon Ivory, the nose tackle, and then also Jaron Reed, the transfer, who was at Florida for a little bit, went to East Mississippi Community College, and now he's at Alabama. He's expected to contribute. A lot of these JUCO guys that come in are expected to, but they were both suspended. They were back in practice for the first time today, so they're easing back in, getting acclimated. But they need Ivory because we were talking about it when the news of Ivory's suspension last week after the first day of camp last Friday. Is Alabama doesn't really have another true nose guard at that point at the beginning of camp. Now they're working some newer kids in, and the teams they have. But that's the guy that they need in the middle to plug the middle in that 3-4 defense. So, they have a lot of talent there, a lot more talent than I think they've ever had with Saban. You have Jonathan Allen. You also have DJ Petway. He was at Alabama, got dismissed, cleaned up his act, got right with Saban and the staff, and got back to Tuscaloosa this year. And he's expected to be pretty good. He could be a really good defensive end for him. So they have talent there. They just got to keep guys healthy and out of trouble.
Once we get past the personnel breakdowns, I'm going to get back to that comment that you just made a second ago. Let's go to the back end of the defense. Clinton Dix and Sari on to the NFL. Lack of experience in the secondary. Your thoughts about shoring up that unit going into Game 1?
Yeah, I mean, I think all eyes are going to be on them, and that's another reason why you need the defensive line to be pretty good. I think it's going to help ease the transition in the secondary because they do have plenty of talent back there. Landon Collins, I think, is going to be a superstar. The guys that left said that Landon Collins is as good as anybody else they've had in the safety spot. That's Sincere, Clinton Dix, Mark Barron, a number of guys that have been really talented in that spot. So we'll see. He's going to be the leader. But in the quarterback position, I think a guy that's really stepped up and will force his way onto the field, I believe, is Tony Brown, the true freshman from Texas that he rolled in the spring. He looks the part, and according to the coach, he's also a film room guy too. So he's constantly studying the defense, and that's going to pay off. But Eddie Jackson, a guy that came on before he got injured last year as a freshman, is making progress back. He looks like he's going to be ready. Maurice Smith is another guy that's got potential. They have a lot of guys that have potential, but they need to find the one guy that's going to be the lockdown corner that they've had under Saban. They don't have that yet. So there's plenty of talent there. It's getting the pieces in order and getting the chemistry right.
Ben, from an outside perspective, it's difficult to imagine that a program that can handpick the finest talent in the country struggles on special teams. Now, I know that a couple moments have been magnified, so it probably blows the perspective out of proportion of the way the special teams are viewed. But the special teams, your thoughts about the special teams, what needs to improve, and if there's hope in that area?
Well, it's both kicking and punting. I haven't heard a lot on the punting front. And a freshman coming in that they expect to maybe take that spot, because if you remember in the spring, it was a backup quarterback, Allie Morris, that was punting. I don't think that's the way that they draw it up once the season rolls around. So we'll see how that goes. Kicking, Adam Griffith, who kicked the infamous field goal attempt in Auburn. He's been off this. We haven't seen the kicking game. The kicker's usually off to the side during that media viewing period. Saban did comment today after practice that he missed his first kick of camp today, day 6. Now, what are we going to take out of that? I don't know. He's been pretty accurate. Saban has some confidence in his leg, but as he pointed out today, it's as much mental for kickers as it is physical talent. So he's got to have his head right, and he's got to get out there and make some kicks and get into a groove. I think they've got it. He's a good kicker. I believe he can be a solid, consistent guy for him. But it's hard to get over that. We saw Lee Tiffin do it. I'm sure you remember Lee Tiffin a few years back, had one of the worst games against Arkansas, but became really a rock-solid guy for them in that championship season in 2009. So maybe Adam Griffith can turn the corner like that, but it's more mental for him right now.
Hey, Ben, you mentioned some suspensions. I'm interested to get your take on a Saban, not just a comment, but the complete thread of most of his take at the podium during SEC Media Days was not about personnel, wasn't about scheduling, wasn't about the college football playoff or the SEC title or the challengers in the West. It was about rehabilitating young men. He seemed to want to make a statement and seemed to dominate the conversation on we just don't cast away kids because that usually doesn't end up being a good conclusion. But it usually works, and we feel like we can work with these guys. We can model consistency off the field and character off the field. We can show them that our upperclassmen do the right thing, and the guys that have stayed in the program do the right thing and are rewarded, and we kind of shelter them and support them. And that just seemed to be something that he wanted to get across to the media. For what reason? I know that there were suspensions a few days before. I know that could have been the impetus, but in regards to that, what is Saban trying to communicate to us?
Look, yeah, I don't know why they had a rash of off the field things last year leading into the season. I mean, there was a couple DUIs, a couple off field problems, and it had been pretty quiet for a couple of years. And we've had a few more this off season. Now they seem fairly minor depending on the stories. When Kenyon Drake got arrested, his car was a part of a crime scene. He wasn't involved, but it was roped off. They asked him not to go in, but he still went and got his car and drove off. Just boneheaded stuff. And so with Tony Brown last spring seemed to be a little bit blown out of proportion. But, Dylan Lee had a DUI, a guy that's got a lot of talent. Some of those guys just have to you can put them in position, Mark. Saban's had a number of guys come in during training camp, fall camp, and he's still doing it, coming to speak to the kids about different things. They talked about domestic abuse, which has been a big problem in sports recently. Talk about financial decisions and being smart with your money if you get to the next level. Just how to earn your spot in the Crimson Tide and not just feel like you deserve the championships or deserve the success. It's about making your own path in your career. So I think he's trying to stress that. I think he needs the guys to buy in more. I think that's something they had an issue with last year. But everything we've heard from guys this fall so far is that there's a different attitude out there. Now we'll see. Guys will say the right things. The players will pretty much stick up for each other unless you have a really awful locker room. We'll see the results on the field though, because you could tell at the end of the last year that some guys had kind of hung it up.
So just to clarify, Ben, these guys need to be smart with their money after they go to the next level. That's when they need to be smart with their money.
There was some. Well, they need to be smart all the time, but not alluding to the fact that they have a lot of money to work with now, Mark. But I think, for example, somebody mentioned that Antoine Walker was in the football facility today. That's a perfect guy that you want to have come talk to about how it can go wrong if you don't manage your money and be smart with your finances when you move on to that next level and earn millions.
Antoine Walker, we're talking about the guy that used to chuck up like 30 shots a game for the Celtics.
Yeah, the guy that had, I think, a $50 million contract, and now he's making $5,000 talking to college football teams to earn a living. I don't know.
Okay. Wow. What are you working on these days, Ben?
Well, we're in the YouTube game ourselves, Mark. You've been in it for quite a while. I have a great channel going. We've expanded our platforms at Tide 99.1. We're rolling out a bunch of videos too. Really, just a lot of practice videos. So if anybody's looking for practice content, we've shot every position for quarterbacks. We got a lot of running back stuff today, defensive line, everything. Honestly, on our channel at Tide 99.1 FM. So you can subscribe and follow along. We're going to have stuff as the season rolls along. But we're really just getting ready for the season, Mark. It's getting here soon. And I'm pretty excited to see the disaster that will be the college football playoff. Can't wait.
Oh, I can't wait to tear into that either.
It's gonna be ugly.
And already have. All right. Yes, there's room for everyone on YouTube, Ben.
And get your thoughts on one thing, college football related, the playoff related, because we said that. Do you think?
Yep.
Because there's been a lot of talk this year about the SEC being pretty even. Auburn and Alabama are the favorites. South Carolina's there, but you can see any team losing 2 games, right? So what happens in this first year? And this is what I hope. This is my dream, Mark. I'm giving you my dream for the 2015 season. My dream is that an SEC champion has 2 losses this year. To see if they will bump off one of the other 4 power conferences with 1 loss or fewer, or SEC will get left out of the first college football playoff. Either one will cause a lot of controversy.
Yeah, and should, because there should be an objective system where the SEC champion, even if they're 8-4, goes to the college football playoffs. And the Big Ten champion, even if they're 8-4, go to the college football playoffs.
Maybe one day, Mark, we can dream. We can dream big.
8 spots would do it. Not even my 16 model. 8 would do it with the 5 and the wild cards.
Yeah.
That would take care of it. But yeah, an SEC champion at 10-2. Well, of course, your scenario has to be filled out with what else is going on elsewhere. I think a Pac-12 champion's safe as long as they only have 1 loss.
I'm saying every other conference is undefeated or has one loss. Everybody, all the other champions of other conferences have better records on paper.
That's a big distinction. One loss versus no losses. If they have no losses, I think the SEC is in trouble. But if they all have one loss, then it's going to be a determination who out of the other four gets the heave-ho.
So you don't think that there's going to be a lot of controversy if a 2-loss SEC team goes in over a 1-loss Ohio State?
If it's Ohio, if it's a blue blood, if it's Ohio State, Oklahoma, somebody like that, probably there's going to be a little rumblings, but there's not going to be that many people that are going to say, "Wow, this is ridiculous," because of what the SEC's done and established.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be a huge cry if there's a no loss, like if there are a couple no-loss teams and an SEC champion at 10-2 and 11-2, I guess, with the championship game win in the conference. That's going to raise some eyebrows, but still, I have no issue with an SEC champion, and I know I'm almost going against myself because I think each season should stand on its own. The slate should be wiped clean, and we should judge these conferences based on what they do on the field. But that's the problem. How do you judge Alabama against a conference champion from somewhere else because they don't play anyone?
I don't know.
They're playing West Virginia, and I'm not cutting on Alabama because they've played tough enough schedules, non-conference schedules in other seasons. It just so happens that this season they're not, just like Florida State didn't last year.
And won't this year, besides if Florida can rebound. But
yeah, Florida, they got Notre Dame, they got Oklahoma State, so they've got nobody close to their level, but they've got at least like fringe top 25 teams to play, at least. Where last year they had nothing, it was just horrible.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm really interested to see how this plays out this year. It's going to be fun, and I think it's wide open as we've seen. So I'm looking forward. It's going to be a lot of fun come 2 weeks from tonight, right? Yeah, 2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight. Wow. I think it's actually 3 weeks from tonight, Ben. I think we got 3 weeks to go. And I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best to not call it the college football playoff because I don't think it's a true playoff. I'm going to call it the college football selection process.
Wow. Taking a stand. Okay. You should trademark that.
It's a selection process. It's not a playoff.
Very subjective. Very subjective.
All right, Ben. Thanks for the time, man. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll catch up again here pretty soon.